Hello, and welcome back to StoryWhisper. Tonight, I'd like to tell you about a place that doesn't exist anywhere on a map. And yet, if you're very tired and very lucky, you might find yourself there anyway. Get comfortable. Dim the lights if you can. Pull a blanket close. And let's begin. There is a bookshop that only opens between the hours. Not late at night, not early in the morning. Between, in that strange, soft pocket of time when the clock seems to pause, just for a moment, before deciding which hour to become next. You won't find it by looking for it. You'll find it by stopping looking. By wandering down a street you've walked 100 times before, tired, with nowhere in particular to be, and noticing for the first time a narrow door tucked between a bakery and a shuttered flower stand. The door is a deep green, the colour of moss that's had centuries to grow undisturbed. Above it, in faded gold letters, a sign reads, "The last page, books for the weary." There's no bell. No need for one. The shop knows when someone arrives. The door opens with a soft creak, not an unpleasant one, the kind of creak that sounds like the building itself stretching after a long nap. Warm light spills out from somewhere inside, cold and flickering like a dozen candles burning low. Stepping inside, the first thing that reaches you is the smell. Old paper, leather bindings, a faint trace of cinnamon drifting from somewhere in the back. Dust, but the comforting kind. The dust of a place that has been lived in, not neglected. The shelves rise from floor to ceiling. Dark wood, polished smooth by countless hands over countless years. They lean inward slightly at the top, as though the books themselves are curious, peering down at whoever has wandered in. And the books shift. Not dramatically, not like something out of a nightmare. They simply resettle. The way a cat resettles when you sit down beside it. A small adjustment. A welcome of sorts. Behind the counter sits the shopkeeper. She is neither young nor old. Or perhaps she is both, depending on the light. Her hair is the silver grey of moonlight on water, twisted up with two wooden pins shaped like quill feathers. She wears a long cardigan, soft and oversized, the sleeves pushed up to her elbows, and around her neck hangs a pair of reading glasses she never quite seems to need. She looks up, smiles, the way someone smiles when they've been expecting you, even if they didn't know your name. She says, her voice low and warm, like tea steeping. You found the door. You nod, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're too tired to do anything but stand there, breathing in the smell of old paper and cinnamon. That's all right, she says. Most people don't say anything the first time. Come in, sit down. The shop will take care of you. There's a chair by the window, a deep, overstuffed armchair, the kind that seems to have been built specifically for sinking into. A blanket is already draped over one arm, as though it had been waiting. You sit. The chair seems to sigh with you, cushions settling around your shape. Outside the window, it's snowing, or perhaps it's raining, or perhaps it's simply dark, with small lights drifting past like fireflies. The shop doesn't seem to mind which. The window shows whatever feels right. The shopkeeper moves through the shelves, humming softly, a tune with no real melody, just warm, wandering notes, the kind you might hum without realizing you're humming at all. Her fingers trail along the spines of the books as she walks. Some books lean toward her touch, others shy away, tucking themselves slightly deeper into the shelf, not ready to be read tonight. Now, she says, half to herself, half to you. What does tonight call for? She pulls a book from the shelf, slim, bound in deep blue cloth, with silver lettering too faded to read. She opens it, glances at a page, and shakes her head gently. No, not that one. Too loud. She slides it back into place. The shelf seems to receive it gladly, like a friend returning home. She tries another, pauses. Too sad for tonight, I think. Another. This one's been waiting a while. The book she holds now is small, bound in soft brown leather, worn smooth at the corners from being held by many hands over many years. There's no title on the cover, just a single pressed leaf, golden and delicate, laminated into the leather itself. She settles into the chair across from you. When did that second chair appear? You don't remember it being there before. But it fits, the way everything in this shop seems to fit, as though the room had simply been waiting for the right moment to reveal it. She opens the book. The pages are thick, slightly yellowed, and they make the softest sound as they turn. A sound like dry leaves, like turning over in bed, like settling deeper into a pillow. This is the story of a lighthouse, she says, that fell in love with the sea. ago. Though long ago means very little, here between the hours, there stood a lighthouse on a cliff at the edge of the world. It wasn't a particularly grand lighthouse, no taller than it needed to be, no fancier than necessary. Its paint was white, though the salt air had worn it to a soft, weathered grey in places, the way an old photograph fades at the edges. Every night, the lighthouse turned its light toward the sea, around and around, slow and steady, a warm golden beam sweeping across the dark water. And every night, the sea reached toward the light, not with waves, though there were waves, of course, gentle ones that lapped against the rocks below, but something deeper. Something in the way the water seemed to brighten just slightly wherever the beam touched it, as though the sea were leaning into the light's warmth, the way you might lean into a patch of sun on a cold day. The lighthouse keeper, an old man with a beard like sea foam and hands like driftwood, noticed this, of course. He'd lived beside that lighthouse for 40 years, and he'd come to understand its moods the way you come to understand the moods of an old friend. "You're fond of the sea, aren't you?" he said to it one evening, settling into his usual chair by the window with a cup of tea that had long gone cold. But the lighthouse, of course, said nothing. Lighthouses don't speak, not in words anyway. But that night, its light seemed to linger a little longer over one particular stretch of water. A slow, warm sweep, then a pause, then back again, like a hand reaching out, and then gently withdrawing, and then reaching out once more. Years passed the way years do, between the hours, which is to say, not quite in order, and not quite at the pace you'd expect. The old keeper grew older still. His hands grew slower. Some nights he forgot to light the lamp until well past dark, and the lighthouse would simply light itself. No one ever spoke of this. It seemed impolite to mention. And every night, still, the light reached for the sea, and the sea reached back. One evening, a particularly soft one, the air thick with the smell of salt and rain not yet fallen, the old keeper sat by the window with his cold tea, watching the light sweep its slow circle. "You know," he said quietly, "I think the sea loves you back." The light paused, just for a moment, just a fraction longer than its usual rhythm. Then it continued on, slow and warm, sweeping across the water, and where it touched, the sea glowed softly gold, just for a moment, before fading back to its quiet dark blue. The old keeper passed away eventually, the way old keepers do, peacefully in his chair, with his cold tea beside him, and the lighthouse's glow falling softly across his face. A new keeper came, in time, a young woman with quick hands and a quieter heart. She didn't know the lighthouse's moods yet, not the way the old man had, but she learned. She noticed on her first night how the light seemed to slow as it passed over one particular stretch of water, how it lingered just slightly before moving on. She didn't ask why. She simply let it linger. And the sea, in turn, glowed a little brighter that night than it had in many nights before, as though it too were grateful for someone who understood, even without being told. And that, the shopkeeper says, closing the book gently, is the story of the lighthouse that fell in love with the sea. It isn't a story with an ending, not really. The lighthouse is still there, on its cliff, at the edge of the world. The sea still reaches toward its light every night, the way it always has. Some loves don't need endings. They simply continue, quietly, for as long as there's a light to reach for and a sea to reach back. The shopkeeper sets the small brown book down on the table between you. Outside the window, the snow, or rain, or fireflies continues to drift past, slow and unhurried. You can stay as long as you like, she says softly. The shop doesn't mind. It rather likes the company. She rises, moving back toward the shelves, humming that same wandering, melodyless tune. The candles flicker low. The books resettle gently on their shelves, the way they do when they're satisfied, when a story has been told and received and tucked away safely for another night. The chair is warm, the blanket is soft, and somewhere between the hours, the bookshop settles in around you, patient, quiet, and glad that you found the door. If you're still awake, that's all right. There's no rush here. The shop will be open for as long as you need it to be. And if you've drifted off already, well, the bookshop doesn't mind that either. Good night. Sleep well. I'll see you next time, between the hours.